Hello.
Okay, we should be now. I'm gonna go look on YouTube and make sure. If you're here, say hi so that we know we're live. I know Nessa and Stasia were going to come. Yep, it looks like we're good.
Cool.
We are live to discuss today our first book club pick, In the Woods by Tana French. And this is my copy that I thought was 429 pages. And how long is your copy?
It's 550.
Yeah, so I made a whoopsie with the first book club pick because I was like, oh, that's a little long, but it shouldn't be bad. And I immediately learned that it was going to be bad. So yeah, Martine, if you want to introduce yourself, because we are on my channel, just say who you are, what kind of videos you make, and your favorite genres, probably, for future reference.
I'm Martine. My channel is Just Martine. Like the two words, Just Martine, not only Martine. People were confused in the past. What else was I supposed to say? Oh, I make...
What kind of videos you make?
I make videos about books, reading and writing them, and also school and like life in general. And my favorite genres are probably sci-fi, contemporary / literary fiction, and that kind of stuff.
Carbon bonded books. Did you have the paperback that was 429 pages like mine was? Or because yours is a paperback too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the
Mass Market.
Yep.
Okay.
With tall pages.
Yeah, see, mine's like, and I've owned this for a long time. I don't know if they even make this one because the cover is even a little bit different now than mine.
Mm-hmm.
I've probably owned this for at least 5 years. And then Ruby said at least we had over a month to read it, which is true. But I think most people I know, even me, didn't start it until this week. I am going to start next month's book early, mostly because I have a trip right before we're going to discuss it. And hi, Kayla. And this would have been the strategy to go with.
Yeah.
Okay, but do you want to get right into what we thought? Also, in the comments, let us know if you read the book, finished it, and we're going to discuss our ratings now, which I haven't told anybody what I rated this. Martine asked before we went live what I rated it, and I was like, I can't tell you yet. I've seen your rating, and I've seen Stasia's rating.
Mm-hmm.
And yours is the highest I've seen.
Yeah.
So what did you rate
it? I gave it 4 stars.
Okay.
For some very specific reasons. I understand why people might have rated it lower, especially because of the ending. It had some unsatisfying parts, I would say. However, I felt like that was very realistic in comparison to other books that involve past trauma that the investigator has gone through. I think it's always unrealistic when everything is neatly wrapped up for like 5 different crimes in one book.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I agree. So. I agree with that. Because I have seen that comment too in our Discord. Somebody also said like it was a little dissatisfying. But I see a 4-star rating and a 3-star rating. And I'm, like I said before, I'm glad that it's Martine here with us because, Martine, what is your major?
Forensic psychology.
Okay, so I'm very interested to hear what you have to say from like based on your actual knowledge of stuff like this, what you have to say, because this is a very like investigation-based book. Maybe I should give a synopsis of the book quick before we go.
We haven't done this before.
I'm done giving my rating. But basically, this book is like a detective story. We have a main male character who was part of a crime in his past, or he was a victim of a crime in his past, where 2 of his friends as a child, like they went into the woods, and his 2 friends like have been missing since, but he was found, but he has no like memory of what happened. And then now we're like years in the future, and he is a detective, and somebody else in the town goes missing. Another child goes missing, and he's the one investigating it. Is that a good description?
Yes.
Okay. Like I said before, I'm not always the best at describing things. But I said, if this wasn't, I picked this book. So I picked this book for book club. My favorite genres are thriller, mystery, and romance. So I picked this book, and if it wasn't for book club, I would have DNF'd this. I would have stopped. There is like a 200-page chunk in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And you know exactly what I'm talking about, where it's confusing, feels like nothing's happening, and I was just like over it. I got to the end, and I did think the end was okay, and then it is a little dissatisfying.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like between a 1-star and a 2-star, to be honest. And I feel so bad that this was so long. And I put everyone through this. But like I said to you, I'm excited to talk more about what you actually thought, because I feel like I can be convinced that it was better.
Mm-hmm. Kayla agrees.
Kayla, did you start the book? Like, have you started it at all? Because everyone that's messaged me today, just like, I'm so sorry I didn't finish. I'm gonna finish. Nessa messaged me and said, like, she's listening to the audiobook, but she'd love to reread it when she can get her hands on the physical. I've just been like, okay, cool. But maybe don't.
I mean, okay, do you want to hear what I think of those 200 pages you were talking about?
Yes, because I know that you're going to think that that's the realistic, like, this is how an investigation would actually go.
Yeah,
So I
so
think that did, because you said that before I had even gotten to it. So I think I was looking at that, and that's the main reason why I wasn't just, like, completely, like, over it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There were, like, several hundred pages in this. Oh, my other 4-star buddy went away.
Yeah.
So there were a couple hundred pages of this that were pure investigation and also the main character losing his mind, which, fair. I appreciated how they handled the investigation because they set up all these different leads and then they actually went after them. And I feel like in a lot of other mystery thriller books, they set up all of these things, they follow them, and then suddenly they have this weird epiphany, or like in this case.
Right, like an instant realization.
Like a sudden flashback, say, of like, oh, this is exactly what happened. This is who killed them, you know, all of that stuff.
Yes.
And that's not what happened. They just investigated, and at a certain point, they were like, oh, here's this one missing piece, and then they went after that for the next 200 pages.
Yeah. It did feel like they were, like, stuff was coming up that led them to another thing, and they were, like, making sure something was not it or was something they should look more into. But, yeah. Also, I'm just reading Kayla's comment. I think also with the length of this book, I'm trying to still not say spoilers for anyone. There's a couple people here that haven't finished it. With the length of the book, specifically the chapter length also, I think I can get, like, if the chapters were shorter, I think it would have felt more satisfying. Because I've been in sprints this week a couple times with a few people, and it'd be like, okay, 20-minute sprint, how much did you get done? And I'm like, 8 pages. So it was like all of it felt like it was dragging for me. There's a couple more specific things I want to talk about, and I feel like this is not a spoiler. But him as an investigator throughout this has a partner. What did you think of that? What did you think of her?
I thought she was an interesting character. There were she did I didn't appreciate. There were a couple of things she said that I did appreciate.
Okay.
So do you want me to go into that now, or?
Do you think it's spoilers?
One is just a technique.
Okay.
So both of them center around an investigative technique that I was having another lecture on in my legal psychology class while I was reading this book. So it just happened to be at the forefront of my mind.
I think that's fine. I don't think that's a spoiler. I think anything that's not like who did it or what exactly is fine.
So at this one point, she starts using profiling.
Okay, yeah.
Which is really common when you look in like mystery thrillers. It'll be like, okay, we know who did it because we set up this psych profile. The one thing I liked that was Cassie, her name?
Yeah.
That Cassie said was like, note, this is not all like positive. This is just what I think based off of what I'm seeing. Because
Okay,
the truth of profiling is like, it's way more of an art than an actual science. There is like one specific case in history, the DC sniper case, where a profile led to them like grossly misinterpreting who had done the crime, which led to several more deaths afterwards because they were looking for the wrong people.
Right.
So I think on the one hand, it was kind of annoying that they used profiling at all, but on the other, at least they handled it in like the right way where it wasn't the main evidence. This is all we're looking at, and we think it's like the end all be all of the investigation. But
so getting into other characters besides, you just said, is her name Cassie? What was the main character's name?
Rob?
Adam?
Well, Adam was his childhood name.
Okay.
Adam Ryan, and then didn't he become Rob Ryan?
Sure. Besides them, I struggled throughout this. Also, Chris just got home. He's not making too much noise, but if you hear him at all. Like other characters, I was struggling to follow the characterization throughout this book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think every time they were talking to somebody new, I was struggling to place who that person was again. Like when they would circle back to somebody. So that's another thing that I think probably affected my rating too, is I was a little bit confused throughout. And I was focusing.
Yeah. Were there like any particular characters you didn't remember? And then like, are there specific characters that happened to you for?
I just think some of the whole motorway thing, everyone involved in that, I was like, because I think some of the characters were related to friends, and then you would also get their family. And so when they were in the different settings, I was having trouble connecting that it was the same person.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Also, the first couple times there's a third person that's helping them with the investigation. It took me a while to be like, oh, this guy's doing this too.
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah. Yes, Ruby just said, whatever that guy Sam was up to, I had no idea what that was about. Same.
He's very much doing his own thing.
Yeah. But do you remember we talked earlier in the week and I went to look at the synopsis of the next book? Have you read the synopsis of the next book yet?
No.
Okay, because I went and read the first sentence and was like, do you remember? I was like, oh, I just read the first sentence because I feel like I shouldn't read anything more. Maybe go read the first sentence.
I'm going to go right now. You know what the name is of the sequel?
It's called The Likeness. I'm pretty sure.
The Likeness.
So it wasn't a spoiler to really this book, but it was like, it wasn't a spoiler to the case.
Yes, but that is a spoiler to the people.
Yeah, so remember I said, I was like, oh yeah, there's definitely the same characters, but I don't think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Now you know why. Okay, but I think now we can basically get into spoilers. So if you haven't read the book, go ahead and leave, because there is like other things, obviously, about the actual case, which I feel like in a thriller, what happens with the case is definitely going to affect how you feel about it. So if you haven't read the book, you should probably leave now, and we're going to get into spoilers. And I did take notes, just like make sure I didn't miss any really important things. Oh, I guess in the beginning, I wanted to ask you, and anyone else here who ended up reading it, I guess now, hopefully you're only here if you read it, if this book was on your radar before I picked it.
I'd never heard of it.
Were you interested? You'd never heard of it?
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because it is, I think it was published in 2007 or 2008. Like, and like I said, I've owned this book for like 5 years. And have had a strong desire to read it. Like, it's just one of those that kept not fitting, whatever.
And it's been made into a TV show. Yeah. So
I'm definitely probably going to actually try to watch it, even though I never fit time in for TV, because I'm always just reading. But see, Stasia said that Sam confused her too. So it looks like nobody but Ruby had heard of it. And I'm on her page too, that I like Tana French in the like mystery genre. I feel like I see her constantly, like that name come up. But I don't know. So the other question I had besides was it on your radar is, now that you've read it, are you interested to read the sequel?
No, but not because I didn't enjoy it, just
Okay.
because there would have to be a very specific situation in which I read a similar set of characters over and over again, especially in the mystery setting. So
I mentioned to you a couple other, what now especially I would consider similar series to this that I have enjoyed, and to SY. Sorry, I'm giggling because of this. As to why I thought I would like this, and I told you I get these two series confused because they're very similar names, and it is the Will Trent series and the Will Robbie series, one of which is by Karen Slaughter and one of which is by David Baldassi. The David Baldassi one I have finished. I can't even tell you which one's which. And that is similar to this, and I really liked that series. So I'd be curious if anyone else has read that. I will not read the sequels. I honestly would be curious.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I rated it so low. Mostly because I was more interested in what happened when they were kids than to what was happening currently, and that's what was not resolved.
Yeah.
I would want to ask somebody who has read it if throughout the series you find that out. But from what I read of the synopsis of the next book, it's not really following Adam or Rob, whatever his name is.
Whatever his name is.
So I don't know. I would probably lean towards no, unless someone really was like, it gets better, it's worth it. But yeah.
I feel like if he was going to remember what happened, it would have been in this book. That being said, from a memory standpoint, it makes literally no sense why he doesn't remember anything that happened.
Thank you. I don't know.
Because, so the one argument could be that it was so traumatic that he forgot it, so he repressed it. The only thing is that when you look at trauma survivors, most of the time, that's going to be the thing that they remember the most out of their whole lives. Okay. They're going to be trying to forget it, not trying to remember it.
And I had a question about, because he went back.
Mm-hmm.
He was going back. So to me, I kept thinking every time he was back, he was going to remember something.
Right.
And he never did. Right. I also wrote that I didn't think this was very atmospheric.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't feel like I was in the places they were going. Did you feel that at all?
Yeah, especially the woods. They're in the title, right?
Yeah.
And they make this whole.
It never felt like you were in the woods.
But the only scene I think that we were actually in the woods was when he spent the night in the woods, which was the weirdest fever dream I've ever read. So.
I agree with this, Stasia. I was expecting, based on the synopsis, that there was going to be a good portion at the beginning of the book that was that story from his past, and it really wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, it was glossed over like a little bit in the beginning, and then it was all just present. I did think that it was going to be set a little bit, even if that wasn't resolved, that we were going to get more of that.
Yeah,
I kept thinking it was going to get inserted, and it wasn't.
I think the main thing for me about why I was all right with that decision in the end is because, I do feel like Rob's trauma affected how the investigation went, and, you were seeing how it affected him more than a resolution of what happened. And I think that, I appreciated that in some sense, because you saw he was ostensibly losing his mind a little bit the whole time, because he was going back to this place he hadn't been to. And I think it was written in the synopsis, implied in a way where the crime was going to be the focus, but really I felt like the trauma was the focus.
Yeah, I think that's true. What do I want to say? I feel like what I was expecting this book isn't what it ended up being, and that's where some of my disappointment lies. But when you talk about things like this, that it was, if it would have been pitched as that, and I knew that going in, again, I think this could have been, you know, like a 3-star thing for me. And this is going to confirm that I probably will not continue. What else? I thought throughout this, or do you want to talk more about the investigation before I talk more about characters?
I don't care either way.
Thought the investigation went. Like, do you have more notes on that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Like, annoyingly specific. So I did look up the difference in the right to remain silent between the US and Ireland because I was curious, because these people would not stop talking to the police.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, maybe.
Because I watch a lot of true crime. I read a lot of mysteries. Like, I don't know it like you know it, but there is certain things that I pick up on that it's like, that's not right.
So I was like, oh, maybe in Ireland they don't have the right to remain silent, but they do. They do have that right. But I did think an interesting use of that was whenever the investigators, you heard what they were saying either in their inner monologue or to one another, when they were talking about, like, this is the strategy we're going to use to try and get them to talk without having to give them that warning. And there are definitely cases where that is totally legal. I mean, if you aren't arresting them, so if they aren't in police custody, they don't have to be warned, at least in the United States. And it seemed like that was true there too. And even there was the one case with the corporate psychopath whose name I don't remember. And which, by the way, that description of a psychopath was like completely accurate. I was reading this and I was like, this dude is a psychopath. And she was like, I think he's a psychopath. And I was like, okay, good. We're on the same page. But he was like, I'm waiting for my lawyer. And then they basically tricked him into talking before the lawyer got there.
But because that's, like, I can vividly remember her specifically making sure that she cautioned. Is her name Katie?
What is her name?
That's what I'm going to call her. That when she was, like, wiretapped or whatever, she was making sure that she was cautioned that this could be used, whatever she said could be used in the investigation.
Yeah. So I think that was a little bit different. First of all, they were viewing her as a suspect at the time. They weren't telling her she was in custody, but they planned to arrest her that whole time. And additionally, I don't know what the laws are for if you have a listening device on you.
Right.
And you need to give them some type of warning that, like, hey, no, seriously, we're going to be used against you. But also from the fact that she was a minor, which that was a whole other can of worms that was really interesting.
I'm ready to talk about that. I think we should talk about the case, and then I'll circle back to some other things that I had notes on. But the fact that at the end, basically everything they did with her was botched.
Yep.
Because she was underage. And to me, I was just like, seriously? That's what's happening here? Yeah.
That was
I don't know.
So frustrating.
I was unsatisfied.
But I do appreciate that they didn't actually get to use it, because I feel like so often I read a mystery thriller and they get evidence in some way that's inadmissible and then they use it anyway.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay, but you didn't really solve the crime properly.
I just like the phrase cop out when we're talking about investigations.
But it was super annoying to have her, like, go to court and then get away with everything. She was just a witness.
She got on the stand too. Like, it was never even brought up. It's like the town, because a lot of the times people, like, you'll get a lot of people in town having rumors and stuff, and we didn't really, that wasn't a thing in this. And I think realistically, in a town, you would have people talking that the sister was crazy, and you didn't get any of that in this book. So even if it happened how it happened, I wish that you would have got, like, town gossip.
It was.
I also want to say too that this isn't a thriller.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, at least recently, thrillers have gained a lot of readership and more hype than at least I used to see in the past. And this is a mystery, and I know that a lot of people do not like, or it's not as widely enjoyed of a genre. There was no jump scares. There was no, like, this is gonna make your skin crawl. Like, I don't know what I'm trying to describe. I wouldn't pitch this as a thriller.
No, I agree.
Right.
Because the whole central part is, like, this investigation. If any part is supposed to be thrilling, again, I would go back to that examination of, like, trauma as it's recurring to him in the present versus the past.
Yeah.
If anything, there's a psychological dimension to that, and it could be a psychological thriller in those ways. But that was very little of the book.
Yeah. Also, the fact that nobody recognized him as who he was.
Yeah, that was weird.
My thing is, you were a child and now you're an adult. You might not look that similar, but your parents lived there.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, at least me, I look like my mom. Like, if somebody saw me, they'd be like, maybe not with the blue hair, but like when I look normal, I am my mom's twin. Somebody would be like, you look like somebody I used to know who lived here. No, like.
And even not in the small town, O'Kelly, the fact that he didn't know, you have an employee, you hired this person, they're an investigator, so you've done a background check on them, and you don't know their actual name?
Right. And that, too, is the conversation of, what do you think about the fact that he was even allowed, once they found out who he was, allowed to investigate this?
He shouldn't have been on that case at all.
No, because they did talk a little bit about, like, now that we know this is you, like, nothing you've done can be used, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you guys are stupid. Like, what do you mean nobody knew?
I also think, like, Cassie should have gotten into a lot more trouble than she did for knowing. Because she didn't even have to give the reason. She just could have said, we can't do this case.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And she didn't.
Okay. I want to talk about Cassie.
Okay.
More. What did you think about the fact that they, like, had a relationship? And then the affair never really came out. Like, nobody found out. It was used to talk to Katie, but everyone ended up thinking it was fake.
Mm-hmm.
But it was real.
Yeah. I honestly don't, like, I get that they were best friends or whatever, but Cassie was way too protective of Rob and should have let it get out that he messed things up in every way. Like, every time he did something wrong, she would protect him from that. And I'm like, no, now you're putting your job and your future on the line too.
True, yeah.
And I just don't think Rob is a likable enough character to warrant that.
That would be my biggest thing of, like, I didn't understand why it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like either of these two characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, and it wasn't even like it wasn't a passionate thing. It wasn't a. He got weird after.
It was I'm having a traumatic night. Oh, yeah. I'm drunk, so this is what I'm going to do now. I'm not going to cope with how I'm feeling, and you're going to let me do that, even though you say you care about me.
The whole thing was weird to me. And then the fact that now she's with Sam.
Yeah.
What's happening? I don't like her.
And I get
that that's who the second book follows is, like, why I'm like, no.
I get that Sam liked Cassie. Like, I understood that. But I never once saw Cassie liking Sam.
No. And I'm still more confused about why he didn't notice what was going on with Adam, Rob, and Cassie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he wasn't really knowing what they were truly investigating, and he wasn't knowing what was going on between the two of them either.
Right.
It was all weird. And
I know that Cassie was undercover, and so she was so good at lying to people, except that I doubt she really was. But
I wasn't getting that vibe, truly, but
she seemed way too honest about everything to be lying the whole time and up front. But she seemed too loyal to Rob to then go and be with Sam in general. Like,
yeah, I agree with that. I agree with this.
Yes.
I don't know.
And then, can we talk about the girl's family?
Yeah, because I was talking to Stasia yesterday, and she was like, there's someone that I think did it. And I was like, text me who you think. Because I was really close to the end at that point. I was like, tell me who you think. And so she told me who she thought. And I do think that that is, we were led to believe, or even in the beginning when I said this is giving me JonBenet Ramsey vibes,
Mm-hmm.
I was immediately like, ooh, the family did it.
Mm-hmm.
Someone in the family did this. And especially with what we found out about the poisoning.
Mm-hmm.
Which, just tell me what you thought about the family.
I thought the parents clearly did not pay enough attention to their children.
Yes.
So if anything, you'd get them on neglect because like they had no idea what was happening in their own home. Your child is poisoning another one of your children and you have no idea.
Well, the dad at the end said something like, I knew she was crazy, but she's my daughter too.
And it's like, well,
I
if
was
you
like,
really cared about her, you better help.
Yeah.
And then the sister,
I did think it was the dad.
The twin sister made no sense to me.
Yes, the twins.
They
mentioned it once,
had nothing
but it wasn't
to
even,
do.
like, relevant.
Yeah, Jessica had nothing to do with the actual plot. And in some ways, I was very confused by her character because they made her seem like, at the very least, she had some type of cognitive disability, and yet they never established what that would be, why she would have that, why the parents weren't taking action to help give her resources for that. She was just quiet for no reason and didn't seem to understand what was happening. And it was also never explained how Katie, again, don't know if that's her name, Katie was like getting Jessica to go along with things because she really was.
So do you think that the one that died, next time remind me to write down character names, really was like doing telling the parents things to get like the other two sisters in trouble? Or was that all fake, do you think?
I think
it was sad that the sexual assault thing wasn't real.
Yeah.
Proof that wasn't happening, that was made up. But do you think that there was any truth to why the older sister wanted to, like, truly didn't like the one that died so much? Katie's the one that died, so I have been using the wrong name.
Yeah. Rosalind. Not a memorable name.
Thank you so much.
As soon as I kept saying Katie, I was like remembering her as the dead girl. I was like, Katie definitely dead, isn't she?
Why Rosalind was so mad at Katie and wanted something bad to happen to Katie?
So on the one hand, it was like, yeah, I understood what she was saying at the end. I got the sense that the parents cared about Katie a little more, or that the community in general cared about Katie a little more, because she was good at something and she was coming from a small town and doing great things and stuff. At the same time, I think there weren't enough behaviors running parallel to this whole thing from Rosalind that indicate that she was actually that violent-minded of a person.
Yeah.
I think if she was actually as messed up as they made her seem, sure, she could have tricked somebody else into killing Katie, right? But I think it's much more likely that she would have taken some more definitive type of action.
Yeah. I think talking this through, I'm actually realizing that that's what it was, is that the more we're talking about, they were in a neglectful home, they clearly didn't have much, and she was seeing Katie as the one who was maybe going to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's probably some jealousy there.
Definitely.
Right. Okay. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap this up? I know you have somewhere to be at 2 or whatever time it is there, 3.
So one thing about your right to remain silent, I'm just going to give this warning to everybody right now. When Damien was being interrogated and he confessed, they read him his rights, and then he said, there's no point in me getting a lawyer now. I've already told you I've done it. If for some reason you ever kill someone and you confess
Do not
to
say
the
one word.
police, if you confess to the police, still get a lawyer afterwards. Please,
Yeah,
for the
but
love of God.
first and foremost, please don't kill anybody.
Please don't kill anybody. And please, if you're innocent, don't talk to the police about
You
a
have a
crime.
right to a lawyer and the right to remain silent, right?
They will use anything you say against you, whether you're truthful, innocent, anything. Don't talk to them.
Good points. Good points. But yeah, I think we can continue this conversation if anyone has anything to say in the Discord throughout the day. I'll put a little warning that from here out, it'll be spoiler filled. If anyone else has anything they specifically want to say. But I do want to talk about next month's book, which again, I'm glad it's you that finished the book and joined me today because Martine picked the book for next month. If you want to talk about what that is.
Yeah, so I picked The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, which is a really famous book. It's dystopian. It's about female power. So I'm really interested to read it. I've read some Margaret Atwood before, and I've been waiting to read this book for a really long time. So I'm excited. I also know that there are some people in my life who've already read it and some people who really want to read it. So if you're interested at all in dystopians or Margaret Atwood, I would definitely say pick up a copy and join us for next month's talk.
Yes, I'm excited because I said before too that is something that was not on my radar, but the more I see how many people have read it and what it actually is about, I'm excited to read it. And it's much shorter than this one that I picked this month.
So true.
Yes. So we discussed earlier today, probably tentatively doing the live show for that on April 18th. Is that right? So just keep a lookout for that. Most of you I know are on the Twitter and the Discord, so just keep an eye out. But most likely it's going to be the 18th. I also have for May, Kayla from Kayla Ray Reed, she was in here earlier before she left for the spoilers, picked the book for May, and it is, let me read it, Where the Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis. And it's a YA fantasy centered around like magicians. And I think the magicians start to go missing. I read the synopsis once, but I'm excited for that too. Like I said, I think these first 3 books are very different. So it'll be fun to get everyone's opinions on that. And again, that one's a YA and it should go quick. And I'm excited to discuss it with everyone.
Yay.
But yes. And she said that I'm guessing this is for you've read The Handmaid's Tale. Assuming. Because I think Where
Dreams Descend is newer.
Yeah, I think it was a 2020 release. And I think the second book is coming out in August. I looked today. So that'll be fun. It'll be the first new release. I know mine was a 2007 release. I'm not sure when The Handmaid's Tale was released, but it was a while ago. So, right, it was a 2020 release. So if you need to put a hold on it anywhere, get a hold of that. I'll put all this information on the Twitter and Discord again today. But yeah, I'm excited. We had our first book club chat successfully, and I'm glad that it was differing opinions. I think if we both would have just loved it, there wouldn't have been much to say. So, but other than that, I guess we're done. It was good talking to you today. Okay, bye everyone.